Hey there, Legal Tea listeners. This is your host, Jenny Roselle. Welcome back for another episode of Legal Tea. As you may have noticed, I took a break last week, and as I shared at the end of my last episode, where I always try to do a little sneak peek at what the following episode will be about, I shared that I was falling a little behind. And honestly, it was just easier for me to hit pause and sort of catch my breath. And I really needed to devote some time and attention to my law firm. And rather than try to do many birds with one stone, I just hit pause and caught my breath. So I took a week off. I'm feeling so much better and I'm ready to go for this next episode. So thank you for bearing with me. I hope you use the time to catch up on another favorite podcast of yours, or even catch up on episodes of Legal Tea that you haven't been able to listen to yet. Alrighty, here we go. Today's topic is a current trend, something going on in the current time that is pertinent to my little estate and elder law world. And today's episode is a fun one. It's just something a little different, and I like doing things just a little different. So this week's episode is going to be about odd little tidbits about tax law and the tax code, which I get it, on the surface sounds really boring. But the thing that made me think about this topic and why I'm talking about this topic under a current trends episode is because I stumbled upon an article talking about Aaron Judge and his recent home runs and how the, quote, tax man will be following the fan who caught the last home run ball. You know, as a lawyer who practices in estate and elder law that often intersects with tax, I was 0% surprised. But maybe you are surprised or not to hear about this fan maybe getting taxed for catching this home run ball. Before I go on, though, I feel like we need to get some basics out of the way for my non-sports lovers around here. So, who the heck is Aaron Judge? Well, Aaron is a baseball player, hence home runs, and he plays for the New York Yankees. He's an outfielder, and he's a big boy for a baseball player. He stands at 6'7", and he's just north of 280 pounds. According to Fanatics Forum blog, Aaron Judge is one of the largest players in Major League Baseball. So given his size and obviously his talent if he's playing professional baseball, he can slug some balls when he's batting. He has smashed many records, and the pun was definitely intended there, smashed many records, including the most recent record this baseball season, which is why his name has been all over the news lately and why this episode we're even talking about him. According to his Wikipedia page, roughly 95 years after Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs in a single season, Aaron now gets to be on the short list of Major League Baseball players to hit 60 runs in a single season. That happened on September 20th, 2022. So that's when September 20th is when he hit the 60th home run in this season. But 8 days later, on September 28th, Aaron hit his 61st home run, which tied for fourth place with Roger Maris for the most home runs in a single season in American League history. And then finally, on October 4th, 2022, Aaron hit his 62nd home run, which allowed him to take the fourth place spot alone, bumping Roger Maris to 5th place. So now, the only individuals ahead of him are Barry Bonds, which I think he has the top record for like 73 runs in a single season. So we've got Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, and Sammy Sosa all ahead of Aaron Judge, but incredible nonetheless, right? So I recall watching something on television. I forget what it was, but they kept interrupting the program I was watching to tune in for the Yankees game so that the world could watch Aaron break these records. And I'm not the biggest professional baseball fan in the world. I much prefer college basketball. But don't get me wrong either. I played softball from like a kid to high school, so I'm not a big Dumbo when it comes to rules and stuff. I just don't watch it faithfully. I just don't watch professional baseball faithfully. But my husband and I were just in New York City earlier this year, and we attended a Yankees game. It was a beautiful stadium, so if you get a chance to go, highly recommend it. So Aaron's last few home run baseballs are obviously high monetary value, and they are going to be quite the collector's item one day, like in the future, right? So when I stumbled upon this article on Bloomberg written by Michael Baloney, I was quite intrigued when the article opened up with the following sentence, quote, $1 million baseballs are raining down on fans like pennies from heaven, and the taxman isn't far behind, end quote. Well, the fan we're going to be talking about is the one that caught this 60-second home run baseball that set this newest record. The fan's name is Corey Humans. So Corey, maybe not when he caught the ball, but eventually when he found out that the IRS would maybe be in his business, that may have caught him by surprise that while catching Aaron's 60-second home run baseball had to be an awesome moment, all things come with consequences, right? Some consequences are good, like, hey, catching this ball, that's awesome. And some consequences are maybe bad. And looking at you, IRS. So interestingly, the IRS's rules are not exactly the most clear in the world, which doesn't really surprise you, does it? And in fact, according to this Bloomberg article, there's a single kind of quasi-IRS guideline that deals with rare record-setting baseballs. And it's come via a 3-paragraph press release from 1998. Though it's really not super clear, and not to mention it's merely a press release and nothing more. But very recently, the Treasury Department was asked about Aaron's home run baseball and whether the government had intentions to modify, change, alter anything from their view from that 1998 press release. The Treasury Department senior spokesperson Julia Krieger responded with a brief statement, which was, quote, "We don't have anything to add," end quote. What does that mean? It's so confusing because different people, different representatives say different things. For example, this whole 1998 press release came about after in 1998 when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were battling to be the home run king. An IRS spokesperson at the time said that any fan that hands back a record-setting home run baseball would be served a gift tax bill. The IRS, though, conversely doubled down and said the opposite. So that we have an IRS spokesperson saying one thing, but then actually IRS coming back and saying something different. Instead, they said via this press release that a fan snagging a home run baseball would not be hit with a income or gift tax bill. And the then commissioner actually came out and said, hey, this fan deserves a round of applause, not a big tax bill. Well, if you take a look at the literal tax code, a fan that catches one of Aaron's super cool baseballs may fit into what the Bloomberg article refers to as the treasure trove regulation. And basically what the regulation says is that windfalls dropping into a taxpayer's lap must be immediately recognized as ordinary income. And if you're a giant nerd, that's under section 1.61-14. So beyond being considered ordinary income, the tax code would even consider it a gift under the gift tax rules if the fan handed the ball back to Aaron or the Yankees, or if the fan even gave it to a friend, a child, a parent, whatever. It may be considered a gift. And remember, that's what the 1998 press release was about. Like, yeah, we're not going to come after you. Chill out. Though, as the Bloomberg article states, The big issue, the big question would be whether the IRS would actually ever apply a rule like the treasure trove regulation, or even what happens if this fan sells the home run baseball. So many questions, so little answers, right? Well, to continue on with this confusion, the Bloomberg article talks about some academic debates that are going on about this very issue. And specifically, the former IRS Chief Counsel Donald Korb said that the treasure trove regulation, quote, drives him bananas. Korb was quoted in the article saying, if the IRS Commissioner Chuck Rettig were asked the question, there's no doubt in my mind that he would say that merely catching the ball does not result in taxable income for the lucky fan, end quote. So it sounds like now we have someone that was formerly directly with the IRS saying, nah, probably not going to be considered taxable income to the fan. Though, if you listen to his words carefully, what he did not say was what would happen if the fan sells it or gifts it. And in those situations, I think the IRS definitely has a far better argument to get into the mix. So, say the fan did gift it, that would very likely be subject to the gift tax rules. Or if the fan sold the baseball, that would very likely be subject to capital gains. And whether it would be characterized as long-term capital gains or short-term capital gains, not sure. And that's too deep for this episode anyway. But continuing on with the academic debates, the article mentions a tax law professor at Stetson University, Andrew Appleby, who said that the answer is probably somewhere in the middle of all of this, that the practical solution from a tax perspective for things like catching a record-setting baseball is probably a combination of a lot of these things. That say that the initial value of the baseball is, say, $25, or whatever a standard ball game baseball costs. But then you have to deal with the true value of this baseball due to it being a record-setting baseball. And that true value, and the whole issue with that is there's probably some what's called unrealized gain there. And that means that while the fan who caught it does not get a tax bill from a taxable income standpoint, if he does sell it, capital gains taxes would definitely be owed. So Appleby ended his comment for the article with some very basic and I just love the way he ends it. He says, quote, "The tax advice I provide is, please talk to your accountant." Fair, very fair. So I guess right now, we don't really have a solid answer, right, for this fan. Besides, hey fan, get yourself a good accountant. And hey fan, it sounds like you're probably not going to have to report it as taxable income. Sounds like that's kind of the position of the majority of the people that the article talked to. But if you do sell it, you'll need to get ready to talk to Uncle Sam at that point. And hey, it's probably a good and timely time to remind all of you listeners that say you do have something like this, maybe not to the extent of a super cool record-setting baseball, but something of high monetary value, or even if it's high sentimental value, that, my goodness, you need to be taking a look at your estate plan too. The accountant will have this fan's back on how to navigate the murky tax waters following catching this, Aaron's home run baseball. But an estate attorney is probably just as important for that fan to talk to ensure that if something happens, that the ball goes to who the fan, if something happens to the person, to the fan, that the ball goes to who the fan would want it to go to. And same for your stuff, right? That has your stuff, your, legalty listener, your stuff that has monetary value or sentimental value. Your estate plan should touch on these things, and it should be counted on who should get it, and should that be counted as part of a beneficiary's share or not. And I just figured it was a good time to remind you all of that. So next week's topic, we're wrapping up this episode on Aaron Judge and his home run baseball and taxes. Next week's topic is on estate planning of the rich and famous. And on that episode, we're going to be, it's going to be quite the timely one. We're going to be talking about an actress that very recently passed away. And oh my goodness, maybe it's just me since I'm in this estate space, but there is a lot of stuff and drama going on already estate-wise following her passing. And it was a very unexpected and sad passing. So tune in next Tuesday, Legal Tea listeners, to hear all about it. Talk to you then, and stay well.